Do you see my home page? Okay, so let's get started.
I can see the dashboard, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so we've got our home page here. This is, again, test and dashboard that you'll have as your home page. So just a simple representation of pipeline by value and forecast and things like that. So just wanted to, that's kind of our landing page here. So when we go and log in, and you get your login credentials, you'll pretty much get logged in and set up as a user, but you're going to want to make some additional adjustments and some configuration changes to your homepage to your likings. Just wanted to give you guys a snapshot of what that looks like. So over here on the far right, we're going to go to Customize Page and hit here Personal. Personal information is really just to validate and verify that everything about you is correct. So you've got your name, email address, phone number, your location, all that kind of good stuff. Start to the day. These are all really where you'd go control that and change that if you need to make any adjustments. Pretty simple. Change my password. So once you have your password created and you want to change it for whatever reason during the time, this is where you go do it. You put in your old one, new one. You have a validation question that you go through, so on and so forth. Keep in mind that passwords will be automatically requested to update every 90 days. And then one key item is once you set up your account and you set it up on your laptop or desktop or whatever it might be, just keep in mind that if you want to log in on another device, say another laptop you have or your iPhone or iPad or a public computer someplace, it will require a second authentication. So typically it's set up as a text message that it would set a code. You put in that code and then it validates you, and you still log in with your normal credentials, but it's just going to validate that that's you on another device. But again, that's a one-time thing. If you plan on using that computer again, you won't have to do it again, but for the first time, you'll get prompted for that. From a language and time zone perspective, obviously you're going to have it defaulted to wherever time zone you're at around the globe. Wanted to bring up the fact that you can customize this from a language perspective. So if you are a German speaker, Italian, French, so on and so forth, you can change that. What that will do essentially is it will change the baseline object definition language. So say home, chatter, leads, everything I'm pointing to here would be in your native language. A lot of the fields will stay in English, but some of the fields will be in the local language. So it's kind of a partial translation, not a full translation. You'll still be dealing with obviously the baseline of English, but if you want to change that, this is where to do it. If you want to flow along with different languages, that's perfectly fine. And that's pretty much it here from the standpoint of the personal things that you want to play around with. There's other things that you can do later on, but not critical at this point. From a display and layout perspective, some people may want to customize their tab layout. So right now I've got it set up here from home, chatter, leads, accounts, etc. I can rearrange that and move those around in an order that I might like. Totally up to you to whether you want to do that or not, but that's there. As well as social accounts, being a cloud-based system, it's pretty much locked in and able to integrate with some basic stuff, obviously like LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook's an example. All this really does is just let you pass through to those sites with your login credentials already there. So if you have your Twitter account and you go out to Twitter, you can just get taken to Twitter without having to re-log in. And I'll show you guys a little bit later on where that is located in the system as far as the reason to use that. And then main thing I've been pointing out is from the email perspective, there's standard place to put a signature if you want to include that. So very similar to what you do in Outlook, you're just staying in Salesforce, but that's where to include that as well. Main thing I wanted to bring up here is just when you go to your home page, you're going to be able to control some of the notifications. I think it's really important. A lot of people maybe forget, sometimes when we subscribe to things, we forget to check off, hey, I don't want an email every day, I want one once a week, things like that. That's where you can go here to your email notifications and modify what you want to get sort of pinged on if you think about it. So obviously you're going to receive emails, but you can get a little granular and say, hey, I don't want to see comments or things about a post. I mean, these are all related to the chatter, but this is where you kind of go manipulate that so you can kind of just dial it up or dial it down depending on what you want, what your personal preferences are for being communicated to. Just keep in mind that that's open to you guys to do that. Okay. And also, We do not have any kind of Salesforce or Outlook integration, so even though that is available to download, it will not work because we were not accessing that. Chatter Desktop is really the only thing here that you could download, which will just give you the desktop version of Chatter, meaning that if you're in your laptop and sort of like the Microsoft Lync, it's a very similar tool where you can chat back and forth with colleagues in Salesforce. But we'll cover that a little bit more. Okay. So that's your general information here as far as your home page. So let's get into accounts. So obviously, from an account perspective, the biggest concern and things that you might be anxious about is making sure that you're going to be able to see your accounts and find your accounts and making sure that the right accounts are mapped to everybody. So from the standpoint of where this information is, it's in the Accounts tab. You have your most recent activity here is always going to appear in Recent Accounts. It's just what you have been looking at in the last session or last couple of days. It's going to appear here. Key thing to keep in mind here is all of these applications, all of these objects, as you call them, have views. And views are really the best place to sort of organize what you want to see and how you want to see it. So there's an All Accounts view, a My Accounts view, My Teams account. So what's the difference with those? Obviously, All Accounts is going to be a view that you can see a lot of activity, and we're going to, in this test environment, we'd be able to see quite a bit more than you normally would, but it would be segregated back by region. So you should not be seeing accounts that are not in your space, and then obviously if you don't own something, you'll not be able to control or edit it. But there is a view here right now for all. And this is kind of your general stuff that you would see around the account name, billings, location, who owns it, the Oracle ID number is an example, things like that. The difference between My Accounts and My Teams accounts are, My Accounts are just, if I'm the sole owner of that account, there's no other colleague or coworker that I collaborate with on that account, I'm the only person on it, then that's going to be that view. My Teams accounts are essentially just any account that you have a inside rep or an engineer or just some other colleague that you collaborate with on those records, that's going to be representative of this My Teams account view. And then really the biggest thing to learn about here, obviously, is how to create views, how to create your own visibility and your own way to view these kinds of things, and we'll dive into that as soon as we go into creating a new account. Okay, so we've got a new account we want to set up. It could be a prospect. It could be an existing customer with a different division that we want to set up, all kinds of reasons. There's two different choices. There's direct and channel partner. The definitions are here below. Channel partner obviously is a channel partner from a standpoint of reseller, SI, all the different types of things you can set up. Direct is obviously your standard direct customer. So click Continue. Really just two basic fields that are required here from the initial standpoint, and that's just the account name. So we can create, we've been doing a lot of sports analogy name here. Name, and then what type it is. So an end customer would be, again, probably an existing client that we do business with, but maybe a different division. Prospect would be just a brand new customer. We just met them today at a meeting or a trade show. We want to set them up as a prospect just to do some potential business. And then a service account would be if we have a need to set up them from a service perspective. So let's just take an end customer here. Any other additional data you might have, you can key in it now if you needed to. So if you have their website or a phone number, you can key that in as well. And then, just know that that's not required, just the name and the type just to move forward. So once we save that, we're going to get a prompt that will let us know that an address is required. It is required, but not to move forward for this moment. So let's just say I don't know the address right now. I can continue and do other things. It's not going to prevent me or lock me out of doing other things in the system, but you just know that will always come back up if you recall that account. So right now, all we have, obviously, is the account name, who created it, what time, all that good stuff. So if I knew the address, this is where I'd go to key that in. So I'd go to new address, and then this is where I put that in. So let me just key in some, So account name, address name would be like headquarters or subsidiary, whatever you want to call the name. You have the address here. Key in. States. State or zip code. And then currency obviously would be whatever currency you're dealing with. So keep in mind these are the required fields, but one thing that's not set up right now that prompts you to that is the Salesforce primary. So Salesforce primary has to be checked to essentially tie the account in with the quotes, opportunities, and activities. Ship to and bill to are not required, but just remember that Salesforce primary has to be checked. So once we save that, we're all set to go from an account standpoint. Now we have the address, we have that saved, we've got it saved as Salesforce primary. Now I'll show you guys the difference in terms of what is an account that I created versus an account that's already in the system, meaning that one that Oracle has already sort of driven into the system from the standpoint of our database. So once we go back here to accounts, you're going to see.
Should we interrupt for questions, or do you want questions later?
Let's try to keep questions later because since we got behind, we're running behind. But anyways, so an account here that would be what I would call prospect accounts just from this database would be all the ones that have the Oracle customer number as blank, meaning that they've been created, but there's been no transactional activity. So at the end of the day, there's no orders, there's no activity, there's maybe no assets, just net new accounts as an example, versus one that has an Oracle customer number. That is one that the system has generated. It's already in there. So in other words, it's driven back in from our Oracle system. So once a new customer has transacted business, so I've done some business with the San Diego Padres here, and we process an order and fed that information back into Salesforce, then that's when that will appear as an Oracle customer number. And for right now, from the standpoint of a duplication aspect, there's some general deduping that we have in here, so it will prevent you from creating a duplicate account. If all the information is exactly the same, it will prompt you for that. But if you just know that if you create a new account with a slightly different variation on an address, that it will allow you to create that. There will obviously be ongoing deduping efforts, and obviously the things that are brought in from Siebel will determine that. But there will be ongoing cleanup effort. So again, back to the standpoint of from when I created this is the general information that I'll have. It's obviously going to map out the location of where this customer is, and then in this particular aspect, we had a default team member that would automatically be set up. So an RSM we have the mappings already done for your counterpart, whether that is an inside rep or SE or whatever that is. That's already mapped the way it is in Siebel today. So that will default if that's your model that's set up. You would have a counterpart that's going to automatically set that up as the default team. If I needed to add an additional person, so right now I've got myself added in here as a pre-sales SE as an example, but if I need to add somebody else, it's pretty easy. I just go here to add user, I key in their last name, query for that, select them. The account access we need to be as read-write, and then you probably don't need to mess with necessarily with case, and then assign them a role as a sales rep, save that, and then they're automatically added into the account. Whoops, we get that prompt. So we save that, and now we have a secondary person, meaning that once some activity starts on that account, in other words, I need to create a quote, I need to start collaborating together with them, that they have the ability to provide that assistance and automatically get into that account and start generating some additional activity, whatever that might be. As well as obviously we would start out without any contacts, but new contact would be put in here as the location of where that might be, and then you always have a contact tab that you can create contacts as well and assign them to accounts. One note as well, just to highlight, if you have an account that, let's say, has 25 additional contacts that you need, you're free to create those and add those in as you like, but if you have a large amount, we can assist with that in terms of getting those loaded into the system for you. Obviously, we just need the general information of who they belong to, their phone number, email address. We'll provide a template of what we would need, but we can sort of bulk load those if you have a large amount. There's obviously tons of contacts in Siebel, and obviously they're stale or good or no longer relevant, whatever it might be, then that will just be a kind of a trial process of going through that. Okay, so right now we've got one base account that we've set up, and then let's just kind of go through that, and continue on with this existing account. So let's go into opportunities. So opportunities, obviously, were all near and dear to our hearts. This is where we create activity and forecast our business. So same kind of view here. We have most recent opportunities that I've looked at. I've got the same kind of ability to create these additional views. So we've got all opportunities, forecasted, my opportunities, my team, same kind of structure as accounts. But this is where, this is kind of where we live and die from a sales rep activity perspective. So this is where I would highly recommend you kind of want to refine some of these views. So rather than, once you start getting into hundreds of opportunities, obviously it gets a little crazy. So this is where you want to go in here and start creating some of these additional views. So in this example, we've done second half of 2015. So what does that mean? That would mean that any opportunities in here that is beyond May 31st. So that would pull up only opportunities with a close date after May 31st as an example. So that would refine that view to make it a little bit easier to see. You could also do, what do I have forecasted? So I've got all the opportunities here that are in that forecast mode. So this is just really cleaning up what you can see and how you want to see it. And again, these are all views that you can create. So there's going to be some out of the box, or at launch point there'll be all opportunities, my opportunities, and my team's opportunities. The ones that I created here just yesterday were the forecasted in second half. So in second half, as an example, I'll show you what that looks like. So all I really did, you go in here to edit or create new view. You give it a name. You select my opportunities, and here from the filter perspective, you have lots of different things. You can come up with dozens of scenarios. I just wanted to focus on a few key ones here, but all I did was select the field, which is my close date, greater than May 31st, 2005. I save that, and I'm done. And now I have that view at my disposal, and it will come up with that every time I select it. If I needed to say, well, you know what, I just need to see Q4, same thing. I can go back and edit this one or create a new one. I just change this to greater than September 30th, and that would give me all Q4. So those are just some quick tips on just how to get a refinement of your visibility. As this, obviously, this will grow in your own account. You'll start seeing lots of activity. Quickest way to just get to what you need to see quickly. All right, so let's go here to creating a brand new opportunity. So we've created an account here this morning, an opportunity here this morning called May Flowers for the Denver Broncos account as an example, and we can go in here and manipulate that, but let's do a brand new one. So obviously we're going to click new, and from the standpoint of what's required, pretty simple. So we have three choices. We have direct sales, which is obviously just direct customer. We have indirect sales, which is an opportunity type that will involve a channel partner. So let's say that business is going to go through a channel partner, or it could potentially go through a channel partner. We select indirect, and that gives us some additional functionality, and I'll go through that. We might not have time to hit both of them, but I'll try to do it as best I can. And then trials, obviously, we've set up a simple process to create an opportunity type for a trial. If you're going to do a demo of some hardware, that would be what you choose, and then that creates some additional activity for the folks that manage the trials. So let's start off here with a direct sales. So really quick, all we're doing here is 4 required fields. The opportunity name. We select the account that we're going to pick this to. These will all come up for you guys when you query. Type is not required, but you can select that obviously if it's new business, add-on, whatever it might be. The only other 2 fields that are required from the get-go as far as creating an opportunity is your close date. Just from a tentative, let's pick July 29th, and then stage. So let's pause here real quick to review. So stages are pretty much the same as what we had in Siebel, but we've consolidated them down to 7. So we have 1 through 4, and then 5 through 7 in terms of obviously standard PO close 1. The main thing to keep in mind is anything below 4 is not going to necessarily require a quote, meaning that's not driving forecast. But once you get to sales stage 4, that is going to require a quote to be created, and then that will start driving the forecast from the standpoint of that selection. So if I pick just sales stage 1, then it allows me to save that opportunity, and then I'm done. If this is all I know right now, this is my placeholder opportunity, I can go back and say, okay, I'm good to go. Nothing else I need to key in, and then I'm ready to move. So then, let's say I come back tomorrow and go, this Selenium Flex Live, I need to go ahead and start doing a quote for it. So I could go back and I modify the stealth stage to 4, and when I try to save it, it's going to prompt me for two things. It's going to give me it's going to ask for the requested ship date, so we would put that in there. And then on-site date obviously needs to be further out from the ship date. So let's just pick like June 5th here. We click Save. And then the next prompt you're going to get is that a quote needs to be created from a probability hit 70%. Please create a quote. Now, this is a requirement, but it is not a requirement at this particular moment. So I'm not necessarily ready to create a quote right this second, but I know I can't move this opportunity further and do much with it until I start creating a quote. So this automatically saves the probability and sales stage, obviously, and then I can go in here and start creating a new quote if I need to. Now, one thing I wanted to pause real quick. So we have simultaneous calls going on with Jeff Kurth, and he is doing a deep dive into quoting, meaning that his training session has a much heavier focus on quoting itself. So the power users around the globe, the ones that were selected from the standpoint of their existing activity in Siebel, they're the ones that create the majority of the quotes in Siebel. That was the primary criteria for them being a power user. Those are the folks that got earlier access into Salesforce to play around and learn the system from that aspect. But if anybody wants to join a call to focus heavily on quoting, just send me an email, and I will send you the invites for Jeff Kurtz's sessions. They're the exact same times as mine, but if you wanted to do a little deeper dive into quoting, I would highly recommend that, because that's going to be sort of the scope and the focus of his calls. Okay. So back to the opportunity here. Now we've got one at 70%. And again, same thing. It's if I go back to opportunities, the most recent one I touched is going to be at the very top. And then if I'm ready to pursue this a little further and go ahead and start generating that quote, I would come down here to New Quote and start a new quote. All that's required here is assigning the price book with the query. You're going to have these come up. Not all of them. All the price books are in here just from a test database. We've loaded Europe, U.S., and Asia. So whatever I pick here, it'll bring it up. And then that's all that's required for the basic information. But then that's going to take you directly back into the opportunity. And then if I'm ready to start keying in some line items, I can either select the Edit Quote Line Item button here, or I'm here at the bottom directly into my quoting environment. So this is where I start keying in SKUs. So I click on that, it just takes me there as an example. So if I'm ready to start putting in some SKUs, we're just going to do a simple one here because there's just a limited amount of data in the test database. I can pick a product by just selecting it. These are keyword queries where you can search from the quote description, the SKU description, part number, whatever you might have. Memorize as an example. You can do different filters, but know that there's multiple ways to sort of bring up the SKU database. But for testing purposes here, we'll just pick one. We can hit select. We pick a quantity. We can add any additional discount if you want at this moment. We save. And now we've got one quote line item here in my quote. So I've got this $100 quote as an example. All right, so what do we do next? So once we start with the product codes and we're good to go, this is all I'm going to do on this quote. There's some additional buttons here that I wanted to go over, obviously. So there's Start Sync, and this is going to be the key one. The way Salesforce is architected essentially is opportunities are the parent record and the quotes are the child record. So one opportunity, 10 quotes. One opportunity, 2 quotes, whatever it might be. That's how the structure works. So in this case, I've got this one opportunity, 1 quote. And the Start Sync functionality is what's going to tie those two together from the standpoint of driving the forecast as well as driving the value of that opportunity. So if my quote is worth $100, that's what's going to sync up as the value for that opportunity and automatically take care of that. The main thing to keep in mind is that from a sync perspective, you can only have 1 quote synced at a time versus multiple. So if I have one opportunity, I've got 4 versions of that quote. I can have as many versions as I want, but I can only have one synced up at a time. And I'll show you guys where to see that. So that's a quick process. And then submit for approval is going to be your next step. Right now, it's going to be primarily set up to auto-approve, meaning that there's no additional steps, no additional folks that have to approve it, but down the road they are looking at a process to do that, whether it's margin or dollar threshold, whatever it is. I'm not in charge of that at all, but just there could be some approval structure set up, and we'll work through that. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and sync up. This is the prompt that you get. You'll get quote line items will replace opportunity products, which right now we didn't have any opportunity products in there. I click sync, and then I'm done. So once we look at that opportunity in that account, then I would be able to see that activity and that history of what's in sync and what is current for that given one. So once I hit that and I hit submit for approval, in this test environment, it's going to go through a approval process, which we set this up to send these two to Lane as an example. And this was where you would go and look at the status. So this would show you that I submitted it at 427. It's in pending status. Who's it assigned to? It's assigned to Lane, and then it's giving me the overall status. If he, in the theoretic world, if he were to look at that and approve it, then it would update that status, turn green, just say approved, good to go. So again, this isn't the lockdown process, but that's essentially how that's going to work. All right, so once we have an approved quote and we've got it synced up, the next step could potentially be I'm ready to create a proposal, meaning I'm ready to create the document that I'm going to produce and generate for my customer. So that's where we would go to create proposal. So we click on create proposal. This is going to launch this tool that's been integrated into Salesforce called Conga Composer. It really is just the tool that generates the Word or PDF document representation of that quote. These are templates that are going to be listed for availability to sales reps. So there could be, there's 2 here that show equipment list and one that's called discount displayed, where you showed the discount. As additional ones are added, this is essentially where they will appear, and you can select those. So in this case, I select discount displayed. I'm going to click merge and download, and it's going to fire that off as far as generating the document, and it just takes a few seconds. All right, so then that takes us to an open prompt for a Word document, and here is the quick snapshot of what that looks like. So the template for this has pretty much been carbon copied as much as possible from the Siebel template, so it pretty much looks the same. This is the standard, fair 15 to 16 page Imagine Communications document. It would have your cover page. It will have your contact's name here from the record of Salesforce, so that's going to populate with that if you have that in there, obviously, which I'm sure you would. This is where your page where you'd have your line items. And then in Jeff's call, they'll go a little deeper into solution sets and taking a look at all the different options of how we can display things, rearranging, which will ultimately show you what that looks like on the document. Everything else is your standard legalese, but that's in there as well. All right. So once we're done with that, then we'd have that document generated, and how you guys facilitate getting that to your customers, obviously still up to you, but you'd have that as a Word document or a PDF document. And then, once we have the quote already ready to go, then this is something that we can go back in and modify, and we can edit, obviously. Did want to point out that the quote numbers that these generate, the Imagine Communications quote number is going to be prefaced here with IC number and then the quote number, meaning that that's the quote number that appears on the proposal. That's the quote number that appears on all the documentation that was sent out to a customer. When I go back and look at this account, I'll show you guys where there's a kind of a difference in terms of the view. So I go back here and drill into the Denver Broncos. This is where I can see the past activity in terms of these opportunities. And I would be able to go and look at what quotes are associated to a given opportunity. So in this case, you're going to have the quote numbers will be the same, except the Imagine quote number is, again, what appears. This is a static field, meaning you can't do anything with it here, but then the quote number is a Salesforce static field that you cannot change, but you can at least drill down into it. It's a hyperlink. It'll drill down to the quote itself, so that'll get you there. And then this is where we would see, I've got this quote, and I've got it syncing. So the sync box is checked, so I know that that's the one that is my current active quote for that opportunity. So I can go and check on that. Another example is where you could do an opportunities view, where you could say, show me all the opportunities that I have syncing quotes. You could do a list view of that to help you refine that down even as well. So that's a good tip as well. But this is where you'd go and look at the quote, when it expires, any of the discounts that have been associated to it. A lot of data here in terms of the view that you can see, but this is kind of one central point as far as looking at that opportunity. And obviously, when it's check sync, you're going to have this grayed out as far as stop syncing. So you can go back and resync and unsync, at your need as far as when you need to do that from a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis, depending on how many versions are done. But like in this example, we've got one quote, we've got version 1, so we know we've just done one revision of that quote. And then it also, in Jeff's call, they'll dive a little deeper into revising quotes and copying quotes and attaching quotes to different opportunities. So in the example where you have one opportunity, you've done one quote, you've made that sale, and there could be a second opportunity for that same type of sale, but you need to create a new opportunity because it's not going to close till Q4. You can take that same new opportunity, and then you can copy that quote that you created into that new opportunity and, make any revisions, or if it's good to go like it is, obviously you're done. But that's there to not have to recreate everything from scratch, obviously. Okay. So, again, back to our primary view here. This is probably a place that I think everybody's going to spend a lot of time in. So this is the one area that I would definitely highly recommend, coming up with some good ideas as far as the list views that you want to create, because when you start getting into the hundreds of these, you're going to want to keep track of that. But then, the difference between list views and reports, as an example I've brought up several times, is list views are the way to visually represent a report to yourself. Just give me opportunities that are closing next week. That's one way to look at it as an example, versus a report. I can do the exact same thing, but then that's something that I could, say, manipulate in Excel. I can export that data into Excel and do whatever I choose with it as a static report or something that I can modify. So that's kind of the primary difference. The list views let you report and view it, and the reports let you view it and do something with that data if you need to. Okay. Real quick on contacts. As far as contacts go, your all contacts view, same thing. I can do, different views for my contacts if I want to see all the contacts in a given country, all the given contacts in, with certain companies, whatever it might be. The same thing. You can generate these views. From a new perspective, if you have a brand new contact, the only thing that's really required is their first, last name, and the account name that the account itself that they're associated to, and their email address. So if we kick in a new account here, a new contact, show you what you'll get from a prompt associated to an account. Once you save that, you'll get prompted with a reminder to just ask you if you want to send out a stay in touch email, which would mean just something to let them know you're out there, or if you want to communicate any specific information. You can click don't show again and it won't come up, but if you click yes, just know that will take you to kind of a pre-made template that will allow you to change the body of this, so you can say whatever you want here. It's obviously just a default that just says, staying in touch, I'm updating my address book, blah, 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 and then put your own signature here. And then really what you're doing here is just sending this out right out of Salesforce. You're not having to go out to Outlook. You're not having to go out to anything else. You can just communicate with these folks directly here, or just skip that altogether. But just let you know that that's what comes up every time you create a new contact, but you can skip it, and it won't even come back up if you select don't want to see it again. But that's just one method that you can use to communicate with them. Okay. So when we go over here to reports and dashboards, again, from a sales perspective, couldn't tell you honestly. We've been showing all these different types of reports that people can do. Just know this, that you have a lot of reports at your disposal. You have a lot of canned reports that you can take advantage of to track your business, whatever it might be from the standpoint of your quarterly activity or monthly activity. If you want to focus on a particular solution, where we lack, you can generate a report on accounts saying, out of all my accounts, who has nothing or who has one particular type of product. You have a lot of flexibility into what you can generate, but there are lots of canned reports. I wouldn't expect anybody to necessarily learn how to do this from scratch, but it's pretty simple. There's lots of guided tours online that you can go to just to take a look at how to do this. But from a canned report perspective, all these different folders contain different reports, and like here, I could go to closed opportunities, and this would generate this type of report. If I wanted to make modifications, like this one obviously says here current fiscal quarter, I could change this to current fiscal year. I could change it to month. A lot of different things. So just show me this, show me that. You just save it, and then you'd have that report at your disposal. So up to everybody as far as how deep they want to get into it. If there's any in-depth requirements on reports, there's sales operation counterparts that we can help with generating a specific type of report. You can set up reports to have them automatically emailed to yourself or to your direct reports or whatever that might be. A lot of different flexibility there as well. Okay, so dashboards is obviously a graphical representation of a lot of these reports. So this is a sales rep dashboard that was created this past weekend. And when I went back to my homepage originally, if you remember, these were the first 3 graphical slides that I can look at my data. So this is a total pipeline forecast. That dashboard consisted actually of 5, but from a homepage perspective, just to keep a tight control on real estate, not having too much scrolling, it just will represent the first 3. But if I go here to my dashboards object and tab, I would actually see that there's 2 more. There's 1 opportunities and pipeline by business unit. These are going to be made accessible from a public view perspective. If there's additional ones that we create, this will be available here in your drop-down list. Any additional ones that can be selected will be out here, and then you just click refresh and it would revise the data. As well as if you want to make, if we publish a new one that has distinctly different things that you might find more interesting, you can make that as a default on your home page by just going to your home page and customize page again, and then you can select whichever one you want here and save that, and then that will be your default every time you go to your home page. So right now we're just as an example, pretty simplistic ones, but know that we'll be creating some additional ones, and you can create your own if you want, but same thing, just depends on how in-depth knowledge you want to get into the reporting structure. Everybody's a little different in terms of if they're data heads or not, or how much they want to know, but just keep in mind that it's relatively simple. Okay, so that covers quite a bit of what I was going to do. So if we want to have a quick Q&A, we've got about 9 minutes left in this one, and let me know if there's any particular things that we showed. Just keep in mind that we're recording all these. The additional online MyImagine Academy training will be available, I believe, I'm just going to say tomorrow morning, and that's where you just log into MyImagine Academy, and we'll have sessions that will be kind of show me, guide me, recorded sessions on the same general navigation that we covered, but you can take these at your leisure. You can log into those anytime. Those will be pushed out to MyImagine Academy. And then the other area that we will have for support will be, or for guidance and things, will be my YouTube channel, which we have a Sales Operations YouTube channel, and that's where we will publish all these recordings, as well as any kind of ad hoc videos that we want to do on any particular topic or area. So real quick, let's cover support and chatter, because I know that's critical. So, the good thing is right now is that we're not requiring anybody to go to the regular Imagine Communications help desk site, because that's not accessible anywhere. You have to be VPN'd in. So what we've done is we've created a case structure that you can log a case if you have a specific problem or issue with something, and that should be mostly for if you find something just flat wrong or just something that's critically wrong, kind of a systematic problem. That's a case, and you're going to have the case object available as your home page, but it's just the case object here. It'll just have one view. There's a ton of them here, but it'll just have the Salesforce issue. And you can click New, and it's real simple, just whatever subject is required from a comment perspective, you type that in, save that, and then the sales operations folks will be reviewing those and, and can address those. If you have a question on how to, so how do I do this, how do I see this, I'm not seeing this, I need some more help on quoting, whatever it might be, the Chatter is the place that we're going to have that. So Chatter is essentially a internal Salesforce collaboration tool. In the YouTube channel, I've recorded about a 10-minute video that covers the whole basics on what it is, how to set it up, how to get it going. But this is what's going to enable us to allow to get everybody help very quickly. So this is live collaboration, ability to fire off questions and topics and be able to get responded to quickly. So groups are going to be the primary place where that's going to be found. So groups are essentially a collaboration of people that created a group on a particular topic. So in our test database here, as an example, we've got Quote and Q&A, which has 20 members that I created, and this is just a discussion group for all things quoting. In the live environment you have when you get your access, you'll have groups that will be set up for the region. So it'll be North America, Asia, CALA, and EMEA, obviously, and that's where you can join. So the groups themselves are set up in a way where if you see this join, then you can pretty much be a member of it. If you see asked join, it means that it's a private group that somebody set up. So here, Asia Service Cloud Training was set up as a private group by Craig Byers. And if you wanted to join that, you just click Ask to Join, and that will essentially send a message to Craig that says, hey, I want to join your group, and he can say yes or no. But that's where you see the little lock symbol and Ask to Join. But pretty much most of these should be set up as free. So once groups are set up, they'll be accessible here to everybody. And then what you'll get is kind of a running tab. So this is very similar to, I guess Facebook is the easiest way to compare it. You have a lot of social interaction here. But there'll be different groups and different topics that will pop up here based on the activity that it notices people are doing. So if there's a discussion group on Selenium, if there's a discussion group on support, there's a discussion group on engineering, whatever it might be, it'll continue to tabulate that and then just bring up suggestions as, hey, you might want to join this group because it seems to be about a topic that you chat a lot about, whatever it might be. So think of it that way. So when you log in, you'll get your feed, which is really where you would go and post a message, and that can be sent to followers, that can be sent to anybody, that can be sent to the group. But this is kind of free-form text. You can type in whatever you want, post about anything. If you want to post to a specific person, you would use the @ symbol, and you can start typing in their last name, and that will bring up that individual, and then that message, whatever that might be, will be sent directly to Jeff as an example here. If you want to talk about and post about a topic, then that's that's the pound sign. So pound would be, I want to talk about Selenium. I'm going to send something out, same thing. It'll come up with the pre-done Selenium tabs here, and then I can type in whatever I want, and this will get broadcast out the same. Okay? Click share, and that goes out there. So this is real time from the standpoint of you'll be able to get these notifications, within Salesforce or obviously on your mobile device. If you've loaded the Salesforce One application on your iPhone or Android or iPad as an example, you can collaborate that way. We brought up some examples of, when I'm a sales rep, I'm out in the field, I just met a customer, I've got my iPhone with me, I'm going to fire off a quick opportunity. And again, with those basic things that were required, and then I know I need my counterpart to go ahead and start generating a quote this afternoon. I can send that just as a simple chatter, and I can send that quote. I can send that notification directly to that individual, and say anything. Just say, hey, I just created an opportunity for the Denver Broncos. Can you go in and start creating a quote? Think of this, guys, as just an alternate way to communicate versus email. If you're in the system, if you're using it in various ways, this just kind of keeps you engaged in the system and keeps all that knowledge and information just centralized. We're always free to do, whatever you choose, but we highly recommend from a chatter perspective, if you adopt it and use it well, I think it'll be very powerful from the standpoint of, sharing real-time information and getting feedback on stuff really quickly. So professional services, as an example, is using it heavily to collaborate back and forth on knowledge-based documents, on documentation, whatever it might be. They're having a good process that they've worked out to keep engaged on things and keep engaged on topics. So many other companies use it to collaborate. If you're pricing out solutions in one general market, people can ask, what are you guys seeing as some fair margins in that space, or what products are really resonating with customers. I mean, those are the types of topics that you can think about as this grows and people start sharing more stuff. Those are the kind of things that will help everybody out rather than constantly collaborating in email. This allows you to send messages. You can upload files. You can send direct links. A lot of different things. So it's very powerful. Again, as we grow this and create this, this ecosystem, if you will, I think it'll definitely help out. And this is available, inside the Chatter application. You can download the desktop Chatter, and then again, it's available too in your mobile device. So, same thing. If I posted to somebody to work on that quote, they could chatter back and say, hey, the quote's ready. Here's the number, and then you can go and look it up rather than having to wait for a phone call or an email to say it's ready to go. As well as you can in the Salesforce One application, as an example, you can directly fire off that information to the customer because you already have their contact record, and you can do it right out of your phone. So think of how much time that saves you guys to be able to get a solution communicated out to a customer really quickly versus having to fire up your laptop, log into VPN, get into the system, whatever it might be. You think about how much time that could save down the road, and it's just all the same reasons just to get us more productive. So, again, as we get online and those types of topics come up, I mean, just know that there's a group of people that will man these regional chatter boxes essentially to provide that feedback, and we should be able to get you guys some answers pretty quickly. Anything that's critical from the standpoint of logins, as an example, I mean, reset logins is a self-service thing, so just go to the Salesforce page and say you forgot your password or whatever it is. Your login is always your email, and it will reset that for you. So that really shouldn't require escalating that to anybody, unless it's just something that you've locked yourself out. But I think it's 5 or 6 times, but either way, it shouldn't be much of an issue. Okay. So I think I've covered. We're at the top of the hour. Any particular questions? We got anything? We've got a few minutes here to cover that.
Hey, Jamie. So this is going to be a pure web interface.
Yes.
Or we have to come in through VPN.
No VPN. No VPN at all. Your URL is what you want to bookmark. So here's my URL here for the test environment. It's production's just going to be a little different. It's going to be NA15, but you can log in the URL you want to bookmark. But if you go to just Salesforce.com from any browser, it takes you to the regular Salesforce.com homepage. But there's a login section at the top right, and you can key in your credentials there, log in there. So there's multiple ways to get there. But yeah, no VPN at all. That's a thing of the past for this.
When will we be sending out the login information?
May 6th. And there'll be some additional, obviously there's the rest of the calls this week, so if anybody, didn't get a chance to absorb all this, because I know it's tough in 1 hour, and we're obviously doing these, 8 times a day for the following week, so there's plenty of time to get back on another one if you want, or you can watch the recordings. But we're trying to be as aggressive as possible as getting the word out and getting these done on a sequential basis globally. So I believe Don Vance will also be joining to help out with some additional calls, take over some of those as well. So you might hear from her possibly instead of me if I burn out, but I'm holding strong so far.